Okay, welcome back to the workbench. We have another parts reveal. Firstly, we got some brake fluid. This is some Castrol .4. I'm not going to be using this because this isn't high temp racing brake fluid and we're building a track bike. So I've ordered some RBF 660 that will be arriving tomorrow and we'll be using that. But we can fit the brake lines and wait to bleed them until tomorrow. But that's what my dad's bought. Like I said, we won't be using that. I'll give it back to him and we'll be using the RBF 660. Next up, this little package. It is some plugs for the ABS pump, which I didn't have before and now do. So they obviously go with this box. And finally, we have one more box, which comes from FX-CNC and contains motor parts. This is, or should be, a whole load of bolts and little bits, a linkage, and then we have, underneath all this packaging, our rear sets. I'll be honest, they look a lot nicer than I was expecting for some Chinesium. But the reason we're using these is, firstly, they come with fixed pegs, which I always think you definitely want on track, because foldy pegs are not the nicest thing on track. And secondly, there's a small amount of adjustment for where the foot peg goes. Not a lot of adjustment, but a little bit is always something. Better than nothing. Yeah, these look a lot nicer than I was expecting. Not only that, these foot pegs seem like they're the super grippy type, like proper, not quite sharp, but jagged teeth, which means you'll get a lot of grip in the wet, which is something I've found on some more expensive sets. The foot pegs that they come with have really small, well, teeth isn't the right word, but teeth. And when they get wet, they just get slippery, which you don't want on track. So this is the brake side. That's obviously the gear side. Fair amount of adjustment on there for where the linkage is going and where you want the shifter to be. Small amount of adjustment for where you want the shifter on there. But obviously this being the brake side, it's going to be wherever it ends up. That little bit is just for the exhaust, which we probably won't want at the moment because it has a exhaust pipe that is coming off the rear foot peg. But those are our rear sets, which means we can get the quick shifter fitted and the brake lines all sorted. One thing I will say, especially with Chinesium parts, is take every bolt out and smother it in Loctite, because otherwise they will be falling out, even the ones with nylock bolt nuts. Let's get cracking. Okay, seeing as it's just gone 8:30 and I don't really fancy starting a brake bleed at the moment, I'm going to start with the rear sets and finish off the quick shifter. So we've got to get these both sides off and put the new ones on. Let's get going. I think I'm going to need to leave this bit on and just take the bar out. Which, let's just check. That side. That's coming to the same place. And we've got, where have I put the box with the quick shifter? Where have I put the box with the quick shifter parts? That's a really good question. I have put them somewhere clever, which is never good. They're not in there. What have I done with them? Oh, Translogic, that's where they are. Underneath recording stuff. So we want this, we want these, and we may well want this. Right. So we are definitely going to want, how is that attaching? How are we going to attach that? Well, that could be exciting. What have we got in the rear sets box? Because we should have, look, linkage. There we go. That's what we want. Right. Pair of gloves. So yes, we definitely want to remove this bar. What do you reckon, 12s? 10s? That's good, I've got 2 10s. So that wants to go that way. To loosen that. That wants to go that way to loosen that. And then simply wind it one way and out it pops. Put that there. Let's get this off. Now let's see what we've got in here. That's for the brake side. We want 2 of those for there. That's for the brake side. I think we want that one for this side. And anything else? Probably, but not yet. Pop that all back in the bag. Gonna want a foot peg. And we are going to want, at the very least, this eyelet. Now, when I did the unboxing, I said you want to make sure you take everything apart and smother it in Loctite, which I will. At the moment, however, I want to mock it up and just work out where we're lining things up. And then I can take 1 or 2 bolts out at a time, get it all covered in Loctite, and it can stay where it is forever. Or until someone changes it. What I'm not going to do yet is put any Loctite on these parts because, like I said, at the moment I'm going to mock it up and make sure there's enough adjustment in it all that we can work out exactly where we want it all, because there's plenty of adjustment there. And when we put the quick shifter in, we're going to want to make sure we can adjust and make it comfy for my dad. Get the foot peg in the right place and the gear shifter in the right place. So like I said, we want to make sure we've got adjustment. So I'm not Loctiting anything yet, because it will need adjusting. I'm going to get a stool to sit on because I have 3 in this garage, and sitting on my knees is not so comfy. Oh, that's better. So what I'm going to do with this is wind it all the way in, both sides. Come on. Oh, don't be a pain. Don't be a pain. Okay, see if I can go the other way. There we go. Wind it all the way onto there. Hopefully. Wind it all the way onto there. And then, oh dear. Or is it? I wind it out. There we go. Right, yeah, wind it all the way in for now. Oh, reverse threads can be really confusing. What I want to do with this is make sure that the cable is going in line with the shifter, so that it's not off on an angle. I'm not entirely sure why that matters as much as it does, but it matters. I want that just there for the moment. Where's that bag of parts that I said we didn't want yet? We're going to want... one of those. And... or is it just that? Just that for the moment, at least while we're mocking it up. Once I've got the other side on and worked out what parts are supposed to go where, I can come back. And then we want on the other side one of these, which... I want to put it all the way in there or all the way in there? There's a good question. How deep does it go in there? It goes that deep in there. Oops. And it goes... this will be fun. Going to want a nut on there or a spacer just to make sure I can get it nice and tight. But at least for now we're just mocking it up. Yeah, that's not good. Look, that's not in line, is it? Right. We're going to want a nut at least. Maybe a spacer. We'll try it with a spacer and see if it lines up. that's going to be too fat. Right, we want a nice skinny nut so we can get that locked in nice and tight. Which I would have thought we'd have a couple, but we don't appear to. This is a little disappointing. I haven't got a nut in there. Definitely not in here. Nope. Okay. I haven't left anything in the box, have I? Only some stickers. Okay. In that case, and worse still, that's locked in now. Okay. What about one of these? Is he going to thread on? Doesn't look like it. Might need the other side. Let's try the other side. Like I said, reverse threads can be quite confusing sometimes. There we go, that goes on. Now we can refit that. That might work. Not quite. Right. Wind him out to there so we can see the cable. And it just goes up then. Do we want it to go up? Or do we want to bring it this way? That's a good question. Let's put it up for now. That's going to want... That's a 10. That's a 10. There we go. That's nice and tight. And we can wind this on. One way or the other. That way. And that is going to want a spacer, which is probably what that little brass bushing is for. Although I'll be honest, I'm very tempted to use one of those nice red Translogic ones. Okay, bolt. That's not so great, that's quite close. Might have to turn this around, I think. Put the quick shifter, or the shift sensor, on the other side. Let's give that a go quickly and see where it lines up. No, that's going to have to come off. Okay. And what that means is this will have to go in this end, hopefully. I don't know if that's threading in. No, it's going in. Well, that's lined up well. Lock that in place. Pair of 10s again. That way. Nice. So that's going that end, and we want that on this end. We can work out which way it threads. That way, hopefully. No? There we go, now it's threading. Right, that still doesn't line up very well, but I think with some spacers we can make it work. Might need a longer bolt. Let's find out. Definitely going to need a longer bolt. Yeah, that's fouling. Okay. Longer bolt required. M6. Luckily, I am quite prepared when it comes to longer bolts. Try this one just for the minute, see how it lines up. If it does stick through, it's not the end of the world. Right, that gives us clearance at least. What we might need to do, looking at that, because all that's going to do is put it down further. That is as high as that goes at the moment. What I suspect we might need to do is trim this down, which is what these lines are for, so you can chop it down as required. Which I think means I'm going to have to do everything to get the tank and the seat back on, so that I can put my dad on the bike, work out where he wants this, and do it all at the same time, which is going to be a weekend job. So I'm going to put this all away and do it when I get him round. See you later.